Hey there, happy Wednesday. It's October 30th, and my name is Trish Campbell. I'm here to do an IG Live with my good friend Nadine Searle, as we always do these around the new moon. The new moon is coming up on Friday, November 1st, and just going to wait for Nadine to hop on and join us. But I don't know how you're feeling. I'm just feeling, I know there's a lot of collective fear at the moment. We have this new moon in Scorpio coming on the 1st, like I said, and Scorpio is always about, it's a water sign, so watery depths, but what lies beneath the surface. What are the hidden parts? We can look at ourselves. What are the hidden things we've hidden within that we haven't faced? Sometimes that can be scary to explore or even think about, or you may be thinking, what the heck are you talking about, Trish? Like, this doesn't make any sense. But I always feel like these energies are there. Everything is energy. We are energy, and everything has that life force. So whether or not we believe that, it's happening around us. And I always say, we have that to lean into, to support us, to kind of make sense of what's going on in our life, in the world right now. And like I said, that we might be feeling this collective sense of fear. That's the topic we're going to be talking about today, is fear in general. But there is this sense of what happens on the collective always happens on the individual level first. So it's like, how are we exploring that? How are we navigating fear? How are we connecting with our own fear? Because I don't know anybody who doesn't have some level of fear in their lives around something, or maybe not at the moment, but there always will be. It's always something that seems to be a constant. And I shared a little poem about this because I think it's just prevalent in a lot of areas of our lives, but it's also just a feeling, just like joy, just like happiness. And it's a feeling that we tend to get stuck in, but we don't. It's funny because it has this like negative connotation around it, but we tend to get stuck in it. We don't get stuck, or maybe we do. Maybe there's times in our lives where we can get stuck in feelings of joy and happiness and stay there. But I think fear is always lurking around the corner. So it's something that, instead of kind of pushing it away, resisting that, kind of inviting it along for the ride with us, but not letting fear drive where we're going or direct our actions, and not staying stuck in that, but acknowledging that. So, I'm just personally feeling that in my own experience right now, and I've been talking with Nadine about it. We wanted to bring this conversation out into the open. So again, I'm just waiting for her to join us, and not sure if there's technical difficulties on her end, but I will just continue on fear. I think for me it's a signal, and now I can recognize when it is fear that is stopping me from saying yes to something. When something is that full body yes, it's like I see fear kind of stepping in, and it's more so a default response, I think, for myself anyways, like to want to keep myself small, for my ego to want to protect me. From a nervous system perspective, it's like, protection at all costs. We don't want any pain to surface. So it's like immediate, it's our body's like natural response to say, wait a minute, stop. Like, I don't know about this. I don't know anything about this. Like, this is not something I've experienced before. So, red alerts going off. And, it's interesting to witness that happening in real time for myself. When an opportunity, let's say, presents itself, and immediately, a wall goes up and says, warning, warning, like, you don't know about, like, this means change. And I think that is a big part of like why we get caught up in fear and why we let it hold us back, because it brings in a sense of uncertainty. But if you really stop and look at it, that's kind of like the beauty of leaning into our fear, because with the uncertainty, that means things aren't defined, and that gives us an opportunity to create. And so fear and creativity kind of go hand in hand there. But I think a lot of times we see fear as this, just this big monster that is, here's Nadine, that is kind of stopping us from doing what we truly at our core want to do. And it's just safe and comfortable to not do the thing that we haven't done before, or to not step into the great unknown. And I think that's because like we, and part and parcel because we fear our potential, because our potential is like so much greater than even our imagination can allow for. So I feel like that is just sometimes overwhelming. And, we think of like 10 steps down the line instead of just taking one step after the other, which will help us move through that fear. So here's Nadine coming in now. Let me let her in. I think she's... There you are. Hi.
Hello, hello, hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. No,
That's
I can't
good.
see you again. This
Can you...
hasn't happened before.
Oh
I can
no.
see myself and I can't see you, but that's okay because I can hear
Okay,
you,
I
so that's
can
fine.
see you, so it's recording both of us, which
That's
is a
good.
good thing. So I know it's probably distracting if you can't see me, which I don't know why that happens, but
It happened once before, didn't it? But it's fine. It's not a problem at all. I can hear you, and that's what
okay.
matters, isn't it? So yeah.
So just to bring you up to speed, because while I was waiting, I got right into talking about fear and just these energies that we're in right now, and I kind of want to go back to loop you back in that conversation, because I kind of got carried away a little, but I wanted to talk more about the energies that we're in. Like I said at the beginning, we do these around the new moon, and the new moon is on Friday. And we've just been through a very intense October. I don't know if you felt that, Nadine. I definitely could feel that, like personally and collectively speaking. Just a lot of things, kind of like we had eclipse season, and we had this very intense full moon that just passed on the 17th. And I feel like also, I forgot to mention too, we are just upon closing a 15-year cycle, 15 to 16-year cycle with Pluto in Capricorn, speaking astrologically. And this is huge, and it because Pluto, it like takes such a long time for a transit to occur. So it's been since sometime in 2008 that it's been in Capricorn. And so people that are cardinal signs, which is Aries, Libra, Capricorn, and Cancer, or sorry, yeah, will maybe feel this the most, but we're all feeling this on some sort of level. And so if you think back to your life in 2008, what things were happening back then, if there's something big and significant, and then look at your life since then. And for me, it just hit me before we did this. So I want to bring this up because, like, yes, people can say astrology, oh, it's like a bunch of fluff and it doesn't matter. But like I said earlier, everything is energy. These energies are happening. We are impacted by the planets around us. We are part of the universe. The universe is inside of us. So whether you believe or not, it's happening, and it's there for us to gain insights and make things make sense, so we don't think, am I going crazy? Like, why is my life like this right now? And for me, I know it certainly has, I have like all these things that have happened in my life in the last like 2 to 3 months have kind of set me up for preparing for this next cycle of, now Pluto's moving into Aquarius. So it's and Pluto is the energy of death and transformation, but it's also like power, um, like over and systems of power. So there's and I'm sure people can feel that on a collective level happening right now with everything going on. And um, so, and everything happens on the collective level, but it happens on the individual level first.
Mm,
So it's
mm,
about what's happening in our own lives, and what can we you know, we might not be able to, we can't handle the big collective fear that's out there. We can't, you know, wrap our arms around it and say, okay, like enough already. But what we can do is take care of ourselves individually. So, but back to that 2008, I just want to say for myself personally, that was when, and our topic is fear, I literally left a job that I was so comfortable in and so well taken care of from a organizational perspective, from a boss employee perspective, from everything that I had learned in that role. But it was like I could see that something inside of me said there's something more out there. I didn't want to leave that role per se, but I knew that I was meant for something more. And so I stepped out into this unknown, kind of quit out of the blue, and just like didn't know what lied ahead. I was in a position where I could do that, but also it changed the trajectory of my life and set me on this, like, that was like, I can date that back to like my own spiritual path as well, starting back then, 2008, 2009. So I don't know, does something stand out for you around that time frame, Nadine, or do you have to think about it a little bit?
Do you know what? I'm trying to think about what was happening in 2008. Seems like a long time ago. But I feel that, yeah, that change and what you're saying about this whole collective energy and the individual energy, you know, all that we can do is do stuff with ourselves, isn't it?
Exactly.
But we are affected by the collective. But when we do something ourselves, we do again affect the collective, don't we? So it's so important what you've just said there. But 2008, I think, you know, I know, and I've shared this story before, when I was a nursery school teacher, which I was doing, I felt that I needed to come away from that, but I didn't want to. For so many reasons. I was happy doing that. It was something I really wanted to do, working with small children. It was very important to me. But there were so many things. The universe was actually pushing me out of that. And I didn't like it and I resisted so much because I didn't want to change. It's that fear of change, isn't it? I don't want to change. I don't want to make this difficult. I didn't know what to go on to, similar to what you're saying, but I felt this push almost. The universe is saying you've got to go. So things got difficult within that job, with people that I was working with, the situations, like, making it very uncomfortable for me. So to actually go, and this is a pattern that I can look back in my life and see it does happen. When I
Yeah.
need to move on, the universe makes things terribly
Uncomfortable.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
That is
And
so, yeah, I can
yeah,
relate so much, so
yeah,
resonant.
and
Yeah.
I'm sure other people can when we look back, especially, and we fight, don't we, to stay put, to stay where we are, to stay in that uncomfortable comfortableness, if that makes any sense, you know,
Hmm.
and we make things right. And I can look back and go, yeah, I was making all the things that were happening within this workplace that, as I say, the universe was going, right, move on, you need to step out of this. There were things going on that I didn't like, and I kept making them right. I kept making everything, oh, it's okay, I'll stay put.
Yeah.
Because that is the fear, that is the worry, that is the we don't want to step out of the comfort zone, if you like, although it wasn't comfortable for me. I didn't want to step into the unknown. So similar to what you were saying, you know, that fear that keeps you stuck. And I can look back on it and go, oh, why did I make it so hard for myself?
Hmm.
Listen to the universe, take those messages and everything, but we don't. And I say, I can't say that if that happened again, I would do it in a different way. But it is that fear, and now I know, and we say it all the time, don't we? It's temporary.
Hmm.
You know, I wasn't going to be stuck in that fear. I left the job, as I say, I didn't really want to, I had lots of reservations, but I knew it was the right thing. What was happening with me personally was that I was getting to that point of burnout again within the work. And I had learned that I can't keep doing that to myself. So I really upped my self-care by leaving that job, which made me very
Hmm.
sad. I didn't want to do that. And I was full of fear, so much fear, because I left that job with no plan, with nothing to go to. Um, so I had every emotion going, but fear was the biggest one. I've never done that in my life. I've never left a job without a plan to go to. And I did do that because, as I say, the universe was pushing me. I would say in hindsight, it was supporting me, but I didn't feel like that at the time. It was pushing me. And what happened then is I had this gap full of fear, full of uncertainty, uncomfortable feelings everywhere, and this time of actually having nothing and no plan,
Mm-hmm.
which was really uncomfortable for me. But what happened in that space, and again, this is a life lesson, isn't it, for me to remember, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to repeat this again, because I need to hear it again. My business developed from that space, from that gap.
Wow.
Because I had nothing to do, and the universe gave me this plan, if you like, so not to be too long a story about it, but I had started to look after myself for relaxing reasons. I needed to do that. So meditation, mindfulness, Reiki, all of those things, Qigong, were in my life. I had put them into place for myself personally. Then leaving the teaching profession, I had nothing to do. But people then started asking me if I could help them,
Mm-hmm.
because they knew I was doing it for myself. And that is how my Calmer Self business was birthed, if you like.
Wow.
So it really is, it's a miracle in a way, isn't it? And when I look back, as much as I was resisting, as much as I was full of fear, I'm grateful that that happened, because I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if that didn't happen. And that was, I don't know if I've got the timing exactly like 2008, but I know in that time I was sitting in that uncomfortable, scared, fearful place,
Yeah.
and how much things have changed. And I'm feeling a bit of that again now. Like you say, this collective energy. I'm now coming back to my business, and I'm coming back to work and everything. I have fear. I have a lot of excitement, but I also have a lot of fear going, am I doing the right thing? Is this okay? Being uncomfortable again, stepping into things that I am not comfortable with, because that's how we grow, isn't it? So it is repeating again. And if you say that's a planetary cycle, I take a lot of comfort from that, because it's bigger than me.
Yeah.
And it's really, I hope when people listen to these conversations that we have, they get some comfort too, because we can be sitting in this place of fear, place of uncertainty, and actually think we're alone. But when we know that it's planetary, and we know that other people are feeling that too, that is really good to hear, isn't it? So I hope that people feel that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. I love that you just shared all of that, and it's so resonant. And I feel like, we don't even realize it in the moment. And just to touch on how you said you're not sure of the timing, like when we talk about like these like dates that we put to things, our calendar is man-made, but the energies overlap. Like
Yeah,
there is no time, time and space is man-made, so it could, overlap in some capacity. And
yeah,
like the new moon is on Friday, but we're in that energy, and we'll be in the energy after the new moon for a little bit, and so on. And even with Capricorn shifting into, or with Pluto shifting from Capricorn to Aquarius, we're in that energy, even though it doesn't happen until like 2 weeks from now, or
yeah,
almost three
yeah,
weeks from now. So,
yeah.
but we're starting to get into that energy, and things are lining up. And so, like you said, you didn't have a plan, but the universe kind of came in. And I think a lot
Mm,
of times what happens is like you said, the universe kind of made it uncomfortable, a little bit more uncomfortable, and you kept making
mm,
adjustments. And it's like,
mm,
I know myself, I've done that. I know so many people who do that. We think we're in this, but I have this comfortable job. I'm comfort, like my life is good. But we're
mm.
not just meant to stay in one spot either. We're also
Yeah,
not meant to have like constant chaos either, but it doesn't have to be. I think sometimes we create our own, and through the resistance of what is naturally trying to unfold.
yeah,
And so it's like, in retrospect, we can go back and say, wow, that was really a pivotal point in my, I didn't know at the time that when I, like you did, I didn't have a plan either. It's kind of ironic that we both had, like, it's totally the same.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
but I just knew that I wasn't meant to stay there forever, as heartbreaking as it was to leave the boss that I had. And he set the
Mm,
bar high for everybody to follow. And so, but yeah, like if I look back, and that was the defining moment of, yeah, I'm saying yes to something I don't even know what I'm saying yes to, but
yeah,
I'm going to be okay. I'm going to figure it out. And so it's coming back to those moments where we know, like, the fear is there, yes, and it's okay, but it's like you said, temporary. And on the other side of that is like something bigger, and it might be a little piece of something bigger, but it's like
yeah.
step by step we move through the fear, through
Mm,
letting go of trying to control everything,
Yes.
If we, and I was talking before you came on about like, it is just a feeling. We make it this bigger thing than it has to be. Like we make it like the biggest feeling, because whether we state it as such or not, it's the energy that we put towards it. And by energy we put towards it, I mean the resistance we give it, because that's also energy.
Mm.
But and even when we're in a feeling of joy or happiness, fear is right there lurking around the corner. So it's like
Mm.
we don't even allow ourselves to feel the other feelings that are also on that spectrum,
Yeah.
because we're in a, because fear is always there. But if we
Yeah.
just kind of like give it the same weight as everything else, and understand that it doesn't have to be such a burden all the time.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I think sometimes we know that, but we also want to keep ourselves safe and comfortable, and like
Mm.
it's a fault. Like that is also like only going to take us so far if we want to
Yeah.
evolve like we were meant to. Our souls, I believe our souls have a plan when we come into the earth plane, and we're having this human experience on our soul's behalf. And there's so much potential there, and it can be scary because it's bigger than what we can imagine, like I said
Mm.
before you came on. and
Mm.
and so, but that's all okay. It's okay to have the fear and do it anyways.
Yes. I think that's the classic,
Hmm.
isn't it? Not to be. I've said it many, many times. I have been frightened of my feelings so much. And especially frightened of feeling frightened. But now to actually realize and to remember, it's good to remember, to look back at 2008, maybe look back at things and go, yeah, I felt that then and I was terrified, but I'm okay. I got through it. It is okay. And that makes you stronger, doesn't it? It's remembering. I don't always remember, and it's sometimes remembering, oh, I did that. Oh, yes, I did,
Hmm.
and every time the fear comes up again, I still go, oh, I don't like it. I don't want it. It's not what I want at all. And I'm frightened again of that feeling. Um, but to remind myself, it's one of the joys of being a bit older, isn't it? I've had these experiences, if only I can remember them. And I shared a while ago, didn't I, that I did a firewalk a little while back. And I'm thinking when that was. That might have been about 2008. I don't know. It might have been a bit earlier. Um, but that was to prove to myself that I could
Hmm.
do something that was really scary and be okay, and I was. But that isn't always at the forefront of my mind when I
Right.
need that reminder. So
Yeah.
it's remembering, and sometimes to have these um, little, maybe we should have them up on the wall, little certificates or something. I did that, to
Reminders.
remind us.
Yeah.
Because it is that I say to my clients a lot, celebrate everything big time, and everyone's uncomfortable with giving themselves a big pat on the back, but
Hmm.
if we celebrate something that we were scared of, so for instance, my firewalk, I was really scared. I didn't think it was possible. I didn't think I could do it, but I did. So that celebration, that embeds it, doesn't it? The
Yeah.
celebration is your memory as well, isn't it? To go, I was scared, but actually it was amazing. So we need those in our lives, don't we? And I'm grateful for the ones that I've had, the firewalk I made happen myself, it was an opportunity that I grabbed.
Hmm.
But other things, like I say, the universe is doing it for us. So they're not always chosen. But it is something to remember. And something you just said earlier, I'd like to pick up on as well, is that we hold back from our feelings, even if they're not fear. And I think it's classic, and I know for me, and I'm sure other people can relate as well, we hold back sometimes on our love because we're frightened.
Hmm.
Frightened of being vulnerable, frightened of, the classic with me, and it's probably simple for so many people to understand, is, the people that say, oh, I can't get another dog when one's passed away because I'm so sad and I don't want to put myself through that again. That's something I can really
Hmm.
relate to, because dogs don't live as long as we do, and we love them so much. And when they die, it breaks our heart. And then, do you know how many people have had that? I can't put myself through that again, because we're frightened of loving, because it
Yeah.
hurts. It hurts when that goes. And I'm using a dog as an example because it's quite simple, but obviously it's in other ways, isn't it? Loving, going into a new relationship, going into a new job, doing lots of things that are new to us. Like you say, there's love and there's excitement and there's wonderful feelings around that. But the fear is quite often just bubbling away. It's sitting there waiting almost.
Yes.
The fear's always going to be there. And I am really getting more and more accepting of the fact that fear is part of my everyday life. Much as I really don't want it. And I used to say years ago, all I want to be is happy. I don't want to be scared. I want to be brave. I want to be strong. I want to be everything. I'm starting slowly. I'm nearly 60. I'm starting slowly to realize that it isn't about getting rid of the fear. It isn't about being happy all the time. It's about having all those feelings, maybe on a daily basis, and being okay with it. Because it's the reality, isn't it? You know, whatever's going on, it's okay. And like you say, none of those feelings last forever. You know,
they don't.
The good doesn't smooth. Yeah, and unfortunately.
I think that's such a beautiful point. I'm like, we could end here. No, but you said it all so beautifully. But we can't, because we know we talk about these things forever. So, and we can, and we love it. And I think that I had a point around feeling, like the fear is going to be there. I lost it. It'll come back. It'll
come back. One of the things I'd like to do, and it might remind you as well, is you put up a post earlier, this lovely poem of yours in the book, which is why we're talking. Love Me book, your original Love Me book. There is a poetry one and there is meditations, but I think this poem is only in this book, I think, if I'm right, in your original, and it's about fear. And it's about fear is only a feeling. So may I read that out loud for everyone while you gather your thoughts a bit? Maybe
I've already gathered it, but yes, it's perfect timing for that.
Do you want to say it now?
Well, I was just going to say that that the fear that comes in, the fear that we're feeling, is our. And I said this, I think, a little bit before. I touched on it a little bit before you came in. That, and you did too, around like we don't want to feel this discomfort. So it's almost like our fear is like an auto response to react to something that is unknown, and we're like, oh, I don't know, this, like, red alerts are going off in our body, and our nervous system is like shutting everything down because we don't know what this is, and it's scary and it's uncomfortable, but it's just, and that's our ego coming into play against what our soul beneath that really desires for us, because our soul has this plan, like I said, which has a potential that's greater than we can even dream for ourselves, I feel like. And so it's immediately wanting to protect us. It's almost like a protection mechanism, but then we tend to want to lean into that too. Like you said, we don't like to feel uncomfortable. We don't like, it's about pain. It's about pain, emotional pain, and emotional pain can sometimes be more lasting than physical pain. Like we can, and we're good at addressing our physical pain and taking care of our physical pain more so than we are our emotional pain. And our emotional pain, we just want to stuff it away in different, like, I don't want to see that anymore. I don't want to deal with that right now. I have this X, Y, and Z to get done. So I'm just going to tuck it away. I'll deal with it later. And then what happens is we don't, because then we're like, the moment passes, we're okay, I'm happy again, joy, la la la, happiness, all the, different feelings we're going through, and then we forget. And then something else happens, and we get like triggered in this fear, and then we, around pain, and we tend to then kind of like cover ourselves in this like cloak of like, so I'm not going to let you hurt me, and I'm not going to feel any pain, and I'm just going to move through life this way. But what we're doing is cutting ourselves off from fully experiencing all that life is, and truly connecting with people, which is also part of why we're here. And I think that, that it's making me think of, yes, this new moon in Scorpio is also inviting us to look at those places where we've tucked away emotions, kept things hidden in the shadows that we don't want to face. It's time to face those now, because like that is truly how we can navigate and learn to live with fear, which is always going to be there. It's always going to be a feeling to some degree, and it's how we relate to that fear that's going to help us move forward. And so I just wanted to share that. And
you're so true, and it really is about that. our relationship with fear, our relationship with all of our emotions, and letting them all be, let them all be where they want to be when they want to be, rather than trying to control them, rather than trying to stuff them away, because that
Right.
doesn't. I mean, I used to do that. I used to think, right, I won't cry. I can control my feelings. I can do whatever, until it all came bubbling up, and I lost the plot completely, because that is the risk that you take, isn't
Mm-hmm.
it? When you're pushing it all down, and then it all comes up, and it comes up when you're least expecting it, at the worst time possible, and it can, I wouldn't say ruin your life, but it has the potential to. But that again is our chance to learn and grow from that,
Mm-hmm.
isn't it? It can be seen as a bit of a blessing when it all comes up, and maybe, even to the extent of people having like a nervous breakdown or something. Sometimes that's the light that they need and the relief, because it all comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I know that sounds a bit crazy and maybe a bit harsh, but I'm sure people can understand what I'm trying to say there. I haven't said it in the best way,
No, I
but
think you
that kind of thing.
have. Like, I think that's what ends up happening when
Mm,
you can only do that for so long. And then
yes,
it's like stuffing a
yeah,
container. The
yeah,
container is only so big. And
yeah,
eventually,
yeah,
and then that's why, and I think that's one of the reasons why we have these conversations and talk about, it's all about healing that
yeah,
pain that
yeah.
because we all do it. We all stuff things down at times in our
We do,
lives, and we
we do.
have. And
Mm,
whether it's small trauma or big T trauma or whatever it
mm,
is, it all gets compounded. And when we have a
it does.
moment of a point of grief in our life, we lose somebody or whatever, that's something that's huge that comes in, it becomes bigger than it even is on its
Absolutely.
own, because it's
Yeah,
compound. There's all this
yeah,
compounded grief
yeah.
below that we haven't dealt with, all this compounded pain,
Mm,
emotional
mm.
pain that we haven't dealt with before. So,
That's the thing,
and
isn't it?
it
Yeah.
also, I also want to say, it also sneaks and oozes out. It's going to ooze out eventually at like the grocery store when you're in
Mm,
line and you're getting
mm,
impatient with like the people in front of you or whatever.
mm.
if
Yeah,
you're not if you're not constantly like trying to feel what you're feeling when you're feeling it. And
yeah,
I
yeah. You're so
think
right,
that's
and
so important.
it is, isn't it? And it's not the easiest thing to do, but it is something that you can, if you get aware of it, and you can gradually do it. And I know it's one of the reasons I like tapping so much, the emotional freedom technique as a tool, because you start off by actually focusing on the pain. So you actually do, and a lot of people are a bit confused by that, because you will actually say out loud when
Yeah,
you're tapping on the
I
points
know I
the, the
was.
what is hurting and what is not comfortable for you.
Yeah.
But it's important to shine a light on that, rather than, like say, push it under the carpet, to get that emotion moving. And that's what tapping does. That's why I love it so much, because you really do, you can say out loud what you're feeling and the uncomfortableness, and then you do gradually, with the tapping and with the words that you use, it moves, it changes, and it facilitates that, which is so beneficial. So that's something that, it is confusing for people when I first introduce them to tapping, or people come to me and go, oh, I did a bit of tapping, that's weird. It's strange, but it's addressing those feelings, which we need
It's
to say them out loud. We need to address them and deal with them, and then we can let them go, we can move them.
I
That's the important bit. Yeah.
it's such an important piece or point that you're making. And it's like that, and whether it's through tapping. And I remember, by the way, when first time I did it with you, and I was like, wait, is that feels weird, because it's almost like you're validating the emotion, but that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah,
That's like, we
yeah,
need that, like,
yeah.
yes, this is what I'm feeling, and it's okay that I'm feeling this way. And I think back to perfect segue to for you to read my poem, but like how I didn't know how to process the pain I was in at the time, and the only thing I knew was how to write it out. And then
Mm,
so this is like why the book came into fruition, was because I wrote a bunch of poetry around, a lot of it was like dark and around pain, because I didn't know how to feel the emotions, or I knew how to feel them but process and release.
mm,
and
mm.
and maybe at the time, but I knew I didn't want to hold on to this. I knew I wanted
Yeah,
to uncover what's beneath it. So in order to do that, we kind of have to face what's on the surface and then keep going deeper and deeper and
yeah,
deeper.
yeah,
So that's why this work is never done when
yeah,
you're
yeah.
working through emotions,
That's it. Because
because they run
something
deep.
else, yeah, something
And
else will come up, and things will trigger something from the past that we thought we dealt with. We've talked about that before, haven't we? We're going through
mhm.
it again. But you're absolutely right. And you did your own version of tapping, didn't you, by writing your book, by getting it all out there, going back to those painful moments, really feeling them, expressing them, and moving through to a degree, so you were doing a version of tapping. It doesn't have to be that way. There's lots of ways of having this process, and journaling, writing stuff out. It's no secret, I've said to people before, I shout at
I
trees, I shout at the sea.
love that. Yeah.
Getting things out. Nature will take it for me. I'm not doing any harm. Nature is happy to take my negative ions and process it. So there's lots of ways to do this, but it is, again, it's that not being frightened of feeling that and processing it, which sometimes, we know because we support each other and we support our clients this way. Sometimes it's good to do it with someone supporting you, because it's tough to do it on your own, isn't it? And we both do that for other people, don't we? So it's something we have it from other people ourselves. So it's definitely something that you can do with somebody.
Exactly.
Which really helps, isn't it? Yeah. So can I read your poem?
Yes, you can. Sorry. Yeah.
No, I'd love to, because it explains what we've been saying. I always say about your poetry, it does actually say exactly what we're saying in so many words, but very concisely, very to the point, and very deep and meaningful. So this is a classic example of that. So if I may read it out loud, it is called Fear is Only a Feeling. So fear is only a feeling, temporary. It is ultimately control. Either we control it or it us. Fear is simply a stepping stone, the bridge to another feeling. Either it moves us forward or keeps us stuck. We have to step in, pass through it, blindly, in trust. Our ego knows. It knows the vulnerable place of uncertainty. It always seeks to be comforted under the guise of keeping us safe. It's trickery. It's deceit. Oh, so cunning. It fronts as an act of self-care, even disguised as self-compassion. Indeed, our ego knows every trick in the book. It will bring up every doubt, every lie, every worry, to convince us we cannot be exposed to more pain, because it knows we will avoid it at all cost. But fear is only a feeling.
Mm.
Wow, that is.
Thank
I've
you
read
for
that
reading
many.
that. Yeah.
I've read that many times, but saying that out loud to you, like I say, there's so much power when I say it out loud. And honestly, I was really getting some real powerful feelings there. So thank you for writing those words. It just, as I say, it sums it up so beautifully, doesn't it?
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, like it's such a big one that I think fear, like we were talking about before, it will never be something that we're going to like let go of for good, because there's always going to be more. There's always going to be something. There always, like, I feel like there's something in like whether it's in the collective or it's on an individual level. And really going back to what's happening in the collective right now, and it may feel chaotic and it may feel scary. We don't know, like, I know on this side of the pond, we have an election coming up next week in the United States, and there's so much collective fear around that. But I truly believe that, there is a lot of uncertainty, but sometimes things have to kind of fall apart. And with this energy of like Scorpio, with this new like Pluto moving into Aquarius, like these energies of transformation, like death, rebirth, and transformation kind of energies, like collectively we're going through it and we're just in the middle of it. So it's hard to be in right now. But the best thing we can do is just like be with ourselves and allow ourselves to feel what we're feeling. And maybe take some of those practices like you've mentioned, whether it's the tapping, whether it's writing, or some form of creativity, because fear and creativity go hand in hand. They both have this wide open space of the unknown. And Allow yourself to process that fear through
Yeah.
some form of creativity.
Yes.
Um,
Mm.
I personally think,
Mm.
and there's no rules around that. So I think
No.
it's the most beautiful tool we can have um, for processing what we're feeling, because there are no rules with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think that's a real good point, because actually there's no right or wrong way to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And we can experiment with what works and what doesn't work. And it doesn't always make you feel better immediately. That's something I've learned. I sometimes have to go deeper into that pain. And that's where a bit of courage comes in sometimes, or a bit of remembering that I've been here before, because it does hurt. And actually, to remember at that time when you are in pain, when have got that fear, to go, actually, something good is coming, because we go up and down all the time, don't we? We go in those cycles all the time. To remember that it's not stagnant, because
Mm-hmm.
the classic thing of being frozen in fear is we can make that happen, can't we? We can be frozen in fear, but actually, to get through the other side, there always is something better. There always is light relief.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's so hard to remember. I mean, everyone knows that I've been through my cancer treatment, and I had the biggest fears of my life. Literally scared of dying. Why wouldn't I be? I thought that was going to happen. Scared of chemotherapy, scared of losing my hair, scared of so many things. And I've shared, I'm not scared of those things anymore. And I'm so grateful. I really went through tough times, emotionally and physically,
Mm-hmm.
to get to a place where I'm comfortable with those fears. I know I'm going to die one day, but I'm not as scared as I was. But what I have now, because I'm in my recovery and things are moving forward, which again I'm very grateful for, I've got another set of fears. I've got other things bubbling up,
Right.
and you just think, okay, this is part of life.
This.
I'm pushing myself now to recover, get back into some kind of life that I can recognize, or something new, the new me, the new everything. It's uncomfortable and it's scary, but I'm doing it,
You're
and
doing it.
this is what it is. And I'd say to everyone, recognize how brave we all are, just to get up every day and get on with something. Everyone's brave, everyone's courageous, everyone has to face fears to whatever level. Like you talked about the trauma, big T, little t. I'd say the same with fear. Is it a big fear or is it a little fear? It's there, but it's
Yeah.
okay, because it doesn't have to stop us, and it doesn't have to be the feeling we sit in all the time. Yes, sit in it temporarily. As you know, one of my steps in my 6-step method is actually sitting with difficult emotions. I sit with fear more than I ever used to, because it's beneficial, and that might sound a bit strange. um, I find that those uncomfortable feelings, that's when I have my best ideas, when I sit with them. When I'm sitting with something, when you're problem solving,
Yeah.
we do it. We problem solve naturally. So if you sit and give yourself peace and time and space to sit with those uncomfortable feelings, magic will come.
That's
Trust that. Trust that.
that's
Um, I,
so beautiful.
I hope that will help people. I've just seen a message.
I
I'm so distracted when I'm
Yeah,
trying
somebody
reading
said,
through.
"Well done, Nadine. You are
Thank,
so inspiring. So glad you're doing well." And I
thank
echo
you
that
so
sentiment.
much.
That
Thank,
is so inspiring what you just said, about where when you're sitting with your fear, you're most creative, because that's like what I was going back to before. Like they're saying, like that space, that blank space that we can't see, that uncertainty, the gray
yeah.
area,
Mm.
all of that, like that is like where the magic is. But if we're just, if we can just move through where we're like, feel where we're at, and then step to the next step. And
Yes. Yeah.
um I just think that that is so powerful. Such I think what we're ultimately fearing in any of the fear is change. And
Yes.
change is going to
Mm.
happen regardless, like with or without us. And
Mm.
so it's
Mm.
like, how can we just go with that and trust? And like you said, once you face the fears, you're not afraid anymore. It's like the fear is really the part right before the thing happens. And then once it
Yeah.
happens,
Mm.
then you're through it. And so
Mm.
we get
Mm.
all caught up in this thing, and we make it bigger than it has to be, I think. So
Yeah. You think
I
we do,
think
don't we?
if we
Yeah.
just face it head on and do it, like I think we're so
Mm.
much
With it,
better for
yeah,
it. And then
with
we
it.
also have the tools
Mm.
to identify when it's creeping up again. I feel like back in
That,
2008,
yes,
I didn't know that I was afraid of whatever because I didn't know. I didn't know.
yes,
But now that I know, oh, this is what I did, like this is the feeling, like I go through these steps, have these tools to help me through the feelings that I'm feeling, and then we can more easily identify what's happening like in real time as it's happening. I had a circumstance last week that came up where an opportunity came in and I was like immediately, I could feel the fear like shutting down in
yes,
front of me. And I'm like, wait a minute, Trish, like, what are you doing? Back up a
yes,
second.
yes, yes.
So,
It's
and it's like
recognizing
that,
it, isn't it? Yeah, recognizing it, catching yourself when you're doing that. Like you say, if you've done it before, you can recognize it more. It's okay, but recognizing it and actually knowing that you have a choice. You can change that gut reaction, can't you? So yeah, it happens, doesn't it? And it will keep happening to us, but we have a chance to choose how we react, don't we? And we don't have to stay stuck with it. We also, I'd like to point out, we have the ability to change our minds as well.
we
You know,
do.
if our initial reaction to something is, oh, I'm scared, and like you say, shut it down, that's okay. But if you recognize, oh, I didn't really want to do that, maybe I want to open that up again, we can go back and change that,
We
can't we? Give ourselves
can.
permission to change because we can, and that's quite often a good thing to do, isn't it? So I really feel that it's so important to, yeah, recognize, and like you say, we can, if we've been there before, and go, oh, I remember. I do that myself now. I go, I remember that. I remember I felt like that before.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remind myself of what happened and I don't like it. But I go, okay, there's some good there. There's a reason maybe. Trying to make sense of things because that helps us, doesn't it? If
It
we can
does. Yeah.
understand a bit. But sometimes it is just sitting and trusting and knowing that it will pass. And that sounds very simple. It's easier said than done sometimes, but it is worth practicing, isn't it? That we can just sit with that, cry, feel those fears, go through those emotions, however uncomfortable they might be. And I would honestly say, for me personally, and I'm sure people resonate, fear is the one that I really don't want out of everything. And I feel that, but I can sit in fear. I can be scared. We
Mm-hmm.
see it all the time, don't we, Trish, on films all the time, where the people are, all sorts of things where they're pushed to their limits and they're scared, but they brave it out and then it all comes good in
Yeah.
the end, not in every film. But we see it a lot. It's out there for us to tap into, isn't it?
And
This is, I've been watching a few reality programs lately on the television and where people are pushing themselves to do things that are so scary and they do them and they get through their anxiety and their fear because there's techniques where we can do that. And then they go, yeah, I did it. And it's amazing. And they've grown and the emotions have been all over the place, but they've done it. And I take great sort of strength from seeing other people do it too. So I'm glad
yeah.
that we have that medium where we can share in other people's experiences
Yeah,
as
and it goes
well.
back to what you were saying about needing the reminders for ourselves that we can, like I did that. I went through that.
Yeah,
I faced, like you faced all those
yeah,
fears through your
yeah,
cancer experience, and
yeah,
and
yeah,
now like so celebrate that. Like let that be your reminder that you can,
yes,
if when fear comes in again, because it will, then you can move through it. You can
yes,
face it, and it's not like we make it bigger than it has to be a lot of
yeah,
times. And
yeah. And that's
yeah,
what I've got fears coming up even now. I'm not fear free. I'm not trying to be
and
necessarily.
yeah, I think.
But it's still there. And as people know, I'm coming back to my work now, and my main passion now is to help people with their own fears. Especially when they get a cancer diagnosis, to go, okay, you are going to be scared. That's understandable. But we can work through that. We don't have to stay in fear. We can still carry on.
Mhm.
Because I want to help people ease that worry, anxiety, and fear as well. The way that I've learned how to, there are ways that we can do that, and the support that I want to give people, that's my new direction, if you like. That's what I really want to be doing because I don't want anyone to be stuck in fear.
Yeah.
That's what it's almost like that's my purpose, if you like. Now that's what I'm
And
feeling at the moment, and it
I
doesn't mean I'm scared. It doesn't
right.
mean that I've conquered it. It just means that I can help people ease that and not sit in that permanently. Because again, it's not a healthy place to be either. It's not where we want to be for so many reasons. But it's okay to let it visit, let it do what it wants to do because it will pass. That's
Yeah.
kind of the thing,
And
isn't
I
it?
love that you're doing that and being transparent about it. It doesn't mean, like, we always will have that fear of some kind, whatever we're doing in life, because like you
Mm,
said, it's just part of life, but that you can still help people and let people know that there, you know, that there are ways that, like, you can move through this, that you don't
yeah.
have to stay stuck there.
Mm,
And it's not like, and just want to reiterate, it's not about like glossing over that. It's like, no, we're really
mm,
talking about facing what you're feeling, and so that you can
yeah.
move through, so that you're not hovering in that state of fear
Mm,
forever, or for, you know, a
mm,
long period of time,
mm,
because we don't need to be.
mm.
And I think that's a perfect way to kind of wrap this conversation up, because we can continue to talk about this
We
forever. And I
could,
think
we could, and actually, you're
it's
right.
such a great
To
topic
round it
that
up,
we
yeah,
can continue to
yeah.
expand on. But I
It
want
is,
that to be an
yeah,
invitation for people to
please,
instead,
yeah.
when they feel like, to notice when you're feeling some sort of fear, and to not
Mm,
immediately distract yourself, or not immediately think of something else, or try to tuck that away, but like,
mm,
question that, like,
yeah.
explore it, face it, turn it. What
Mm,
is that about? Why am I feeling this
mm,
way? And let
yeah.
yourself take 5 minutes and let yourself just
Mhm,
be there for a moment,
yeah, yeah.
and really, you know, come back to like, what, to understand yourself a little bit better, and why that fear came up. And for me, like, that's a perfect example of last week, where I had this opportunity. I kind of, like, in real time noticed myself, the fear setting in and the fear speaking, and then I'm like, wait a minute, that's not
Mm,
what I truly
yeah,
want. And so
yes,
back it up a little bit. So
yeah.
just in, you know, to say that there's that invitation for all of us to
Mm,
face it and feel it, versus
yeah,
distract and
yes.
suppress it.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that, and I hope people will get that message. And also, I'd just like to add on to that, to not be frightened to say when you're scared.
Yeah.
It's sometimes I never used to be able to admit that I'm scared, to say it out loud. Again, that's quite freeing, just to say to somebody else, I'm scared.
Mm-hmm.
That in itself is quite an act of moving the emotions. But again, I've said it before and I'll keep saying it, to ask for help as well, because you don't have to be alone. There is that. I used to hide my fear. I used to hide a lot of my feelings, but especially fear, because I felt that meant I wasn't strong enough. I was trying to put this image out there that I was strong and brave and everything. So to admit that I was scared, I would never do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so good for you, isn't it, to be able to say, I am scared. I'm scared, but it's okay. I'll get through this, but I'm scared, and let someone help you.
Yeah.
So asking for help again is so beneficial as well, and that's something that I have learnt and need to remind myself to quite often. So you help people with working through emotions and getting to the bottom of things with your lovely Reiki work that you do, your wonderful art and poetry and everything. Like you say, being creative is so
Mm-hmm.
beneficial when you're in that place of fear. So where can people find you if they want to find out more about that,
Um,
Trish?
at This is Trish Campbell on Instagram, and thisistrishcampbell.com. The books are available on Amazon worldwide too. Yeah. And where can people find you? Because I know you just shared that you are helping people in a new way with all the
Yeah.
tools that you have
Thank
in your offering.
thank you for that. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm evolving as we speak. So I've just changed my name on Instagram to Nadine the Cancer Coach, because that's what I really want to be helping people with cancer, actually coaching them through that experience with everything that I've learned, and I can help them in that way. But also, there's a lot on my YouTube channel. These chit chats go on there, don't they? So there's a lot that we share there. So anyone who wants to look at maybe some free meditations and things like that, my YouTube channel, which is Calmer Self, there's tons on there. And as I say, these chit chats go on there too, don't they? So
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing everything you've shared. We've talked about so much. You've shared a lot of your personal experience, so I always
thank
appreciate
you.
that, and
Thank
just your
you.
willingness to do that, and for us to have these open conversations around things that aren't always easy to talk about. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank
Well,
you so much.
you make it easy for me to talk about it, Trish. So I'm very grateful for that. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. And thanks for everyone who joined us.
Yes,
And
thank
if you're
you.
catching the replay, let us know in the comments of the replay what you thought, if anything resonates, anything you want us to talk about in the future. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.